we just follow your lead. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll get into it. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Absolutely. We
Definitely.
love it.
Thank
Love
you
it.
for having us.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get into your work and how you met your world that you have now, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything, and I'm sure it really got into your business model. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach things today?
Yeah.
That's a really great question, actually. Our so this a Soul's Quest ASQ was born during the pandemic.
Okay.
So that's an interesting thing, right? It,
Yeah.
it was funny because I was the pandemic had not shut us down quite yet. And but Omar had left the corporate world and I came home and I was going into my office after work to, I was working on my, a degree or whatever. And I go into the office and I walk in and there's like lights and camera and video recording stuff. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening here? And he's like, oh, so I'm just so you know, we're going to do a podcast. And I'm like, we is a lot of people. Like, what do you mean we're doing this podcast? And so he starts to tell me, we're going to do this thing. It's called the Soul's Quest. And I'm like, when did this happen? Like, we live together. We like talk to each other every day. How did this, where was this? And it just literally unfolded. And so it was born during the pandemic. It's kind of
Wow.
funny that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you talk about how does a business get started and that idea of how did that change the model? Um, I, for me, the pandemic was almost like a necessary evil personally when it came to what we're doing, right? Because it showed me the fragility of life
Yeah.
and how we take life so much for granted and how quickly something that is just natural, right? I mean, obviously, we could go into the semantics of like how it started and anything like that, but we know that nature, it has its ways to throw wrinkles at us. Like we live in Florida, so a hurricane at any time could mean, we could lose our house, we could, things could happen. So, to me, it was one of those things to really look at my life and saying, what am I doing?
Mhm.
Right. So I worked in the Chicote, the corporate world, but not a nonprofit world is it's the Game of Thrones, I call it, right? It is corporate. The only difference that changes really is just the tax, you know,
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
tax association. That is the only difference, right?
Yeah.
And the structure of the business is different. So when I left that, I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. So I started with the idea of a source quest, and what it is kind of like a combining of the stuff, the personal lessons, the experiences that I have professionally, the inquisitive nature of who I've been, the things that I've learned throughout my life, and having that innate desire to share and empower others, which was being one of the values that I had. So that's kind of like it all started. So the concept, the idea, has been fermenting for a long time,
Yeah.
and then it started now with a clear path,
Mm.
right? It just started with the idea I want to go ahead and start having conversations with people about their heroic journey, their
Yeah.
heroic life. And that's how it started. And 4 years or fast forward into about 5 years down, now it's become very structured. It's become something that has a framework, has a mentality behind it. There is a business process now that is strongly behind it, but it all started as an idea.
An idea.
But it has to feel so good to come from that kind of stale corporate environment and to dive into people's stories and the real marrow of what makes us heroic and makes us who we are. Because what we do, I think, in this podcast realm is we illuminate all of these stories that get ignored by the media and they
Yes.
divide us and they have all these horrific, like, I can't even watch the local news. It's horrific.
No,
But
I
it
know.
is.
when you
Same.
you know what I'm saying? So when you get in this
Yes.
realm and you're talking to human beings in
Mhm.
this wonderful platform
Mhm.
of getting the story, it has to, when you match that up against going into work every day in this environment that's corporate, it's just a different world.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because it's like something that like when you say that, it makes me think of all the interviews that I've done and all the guesting that we've done, right? I mean, we started before we started this podcast and we're connecting, through sports and baseball and
Yep.
whatnot. And we have made stronger connections with people virtually than we have in our own real lives, which is really weird.
Yeah.
So just to sort of punctuate what you just said,
Yeah. And it's interesting too, right? Because you're right. It's the news and media. It's not what it used to be,
Right.
right? It's not like you could watch the news at 11 o'clock and there was no opinions or segmenting, leading you towards that way or towards that way. And I was doing a presentation for a men's group, and when I was formulating the idea, I wanted it to based on the American, the American flag and patriotism and then the Constitution and the in the Declaration of Independence, and I was getting a lot of pushback for that, and somebody was telling me, oh, that's too political. And I'm like, have you ever read the Declaration of Independence?
Uh-huh.
I push back and it's like, have you ever read it? Like actually what it says, right? It's like it is in Gladiator, right? When um Marcus Aurelius is talking to Maximus, and he says, "What is Rome? Right?
Yep.
Rome is a whisper, is an idea, right? The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, is that, right?
Yeah.
It is an aspiration, and that aspiration could only be kept alive by having conversations and seeing that we are all in the same thing together, that we are all looking for a way to find happiness, right?
Yeah.
To live, to be free, and to find happiness, right? This is a universal thing that we are beginning. Some of the forces out there are beginning to really break that apart,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate
I know.
because you could go around and we have in groups, in any group that you choose, right? You're gonna have your group on that side and your group on that side. But most Americans, and I do believe this, and actually I experienced it. 80% of Americans, we're all in the same boat.
100%.
totally.
It's just these extreme points of views that make us, and they're the loudest, they're the most obnoxious ones, right? That just they're constantly telling us how apart we are, when in reality, 80% of us knows exactly that
Uh-huh.
most people are good.
Totally. You're 100% right. So if we wanted to get to the marrow of what you do on a daily basis as a company, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds in a school. It's career day, and the
Yep.
kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your
Yes.
answer?
So my job, what I do is I empower others to be authentically and live from their essence,
Okay.
right? So actually, that's what I do for a living. But part of what I do on the other side is that I work with young people on a regular basis. And my first question that I ask them, right, and this is the most important thing, and this is one of the things that I think that we're missing in society right now, because the foundation of our society is the individual, right?
Yeah.
It is, we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, which means the individual's rights are the most important thing, right? So the most important question, the primary question that I ask these young people is, who are you?
Mm.
Yeah.
Who are you? You know, and how do you define you?
Yeah.
And I do a lot of work with men, and I ask them the same question. If I tell you that, if I were to ask you, number one, how do you know when you became a man? You know, and how do you know that you are a man? Like, who are you is the foundation of everything that the West stands for. And we need to explore that, and we need to do that. So the first question is, this is what I do. I empower others. We empower others to live authentically. Number one. In that foundational question, how does authenticity look like? It starts with asking that question, who am I? Right?
Yeah.
And that is what we do. So the rest of what we do is beginning to clarify what those are, independently of what Wayne Dyer says, the good opinion of other people, which is it's just a challenge even of itself, because philosophers and educators and people throughout history have been trying to identify the who am I question, right?
Mhm.
And the problem is that we try to systemize that answer that it could fit everybody, but it doesn't work like that.
Right. So before we get to how you met and how this all began, I want to know this. When you were 12 years old and you were trying to figure out who you were and what you wanted to do, what was your dream life, dream job?
Oh my Lord. So I think I had multiple. I had this question the other day, and I wasn't a very curious child. So for me, it was sort of like whatever the mainstream thing was is what I was going with. I kind of just
Yeah.
latched on to people that way. But I think most of it was like I'll be a doctor or an attorney or
Yeah.
some big deal type of thing, you know. I mean, I ended up being a doctor, but not that kind of doctor.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be here. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought I would be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Keanu Reeves from Point
Th-
Break.
There you go. Oh man, what a great movie.
Via
That was such a
Condio.
good movie. They just don't make
Yes.
movies like that anymore.
They
No, they
don't.
don't. They
We
don't.
just watched
Yeah.
it the other day, and I was just
Oh
like,
yeah. I still.
he was focused on the computer, and I'm like, oh, Via con Dios, the best movie
I
ever.
would have taken. I would have taken Bodie too. You know, either one of those two. Like I mean,
Yeah.
that was.
They were awesome.
Those were like so. I did wanted to go into like the FBI and law enforcement, but the universe had other plans for me. So
That's it. It always does. How
that
did
was
you meet? How did this union begin? How did this all gain steam to where we're at today?
So Omar and I met in 2000,
2000.
and we met at a nonprofit. We were working within youth development, and I was working there part time. I wanted to be with my kids. I had three kids, and I was kind of like one of those moms that was like, okay, I have a little bit of time. Let me go work part time. I want to be with my kids all the time. Blah blah blah. And I ended up meeting him there. And we ended up getting partnered. I had been asked to accompany him on some of the teens' trips because he needed somebody and we were short staffed. And so I was like, sure, you're going to pay for me to go to like Busch Gardens and I'm happy to do that and just watch a bunch of teenagers. Okay. And then chit chat. So really nothing there between us. He was younger than me. And I was just like, you know, I'm in my own place. I was legally separated at the time. I have three kids. I'm not trying to get involved with anybody. It wasn't even a thought. And we just started kind of having really deep conversations. He's a very philosophical individual, and I'm very practical. You know, as I was listening to him earlier, I was thinking, yeah, the foundation is who are you? But I teach that and connect with people in a different way. But we ended up talking and really connected in that way. And he kind of opened up my perspectives on the spiritual world, right, and the universe and who we are, and just really forced me, not forced me, but um, motivated me to really look within and to kind of find my place in the world. Now I didn't find it at that point. He just opened me up to that world, and I was like, there. I'm going to be there to support you along your journey cuz you got to figure this out because I am good. I have arrived. I'm fine at this time. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm working. I got three kids. Everything's going on. Um, we ended up getting together. We ended up dating, and we were inseparable since that moment. I mean, it's a funny story, but I don't know how much time we have. But we ended up staying connected, and it's been a journey since then. And it's
Yeah.
been a lot of ups and downs, but more ups than downs, and a lot of really discovering a lot of things about each other and about ourselves.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's how we met
24 years later.
24 years
I
later.
love it. So
Yeah.
it's different when you start working together when you're a couple. I mean, it's one thing when you're a couple, but when you're working together, the dynamic changes. What is the most surprising thing you've learned about each other in
Mm.
this dynamic of working together?
Great question.
This is actually this I had this epiphany a couple of weeks ago, right? Because again, like you said, she's more practical, definitely way more practical than I am. So what tends to happen with me is the ideas are, they're there, and I'm seeing things, and I'm already like, okay, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, and it's all worked out in my head, right? And I had to realize, and it was very humbling as a man to say this, right? It's like, oh, I need to step back and be able to explain, not in a condescending way, like why are you not seeing this, but instead realizing that I see things like this, right? And then
Yeah.
she needs to see it in her own way, like she needs her time to understand it and go through it, kind of like work with it and conceptualizing it, right? So one of the things that I've learned from that particular situation is that I have to slow down, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was, and this has happened in the last 3 weeks, right? And we've been together 24 years. And I was watching a video the other day by Jeff Bezos, and he was talking about the idea that he has so many ideas coming, and one of his mentors says, "Your ideas are going to destroy this company," right? Almost to that extent. And then he had to learn to be able to segment ideas, put them in places, and implement them in steps.
Yep.
So being a creative person in that direction, I've been really challenging myself to compartmentalize things, create steps and stages, because I have to be able to do a better job at communicating with her and some of our other partners. Exactly. Okay, this is where we are, and that's something that is, um, again, going back to knowing yourself, right? You have to know those good things about you because it's a good creative process. But if you don't know how to temper that, it could be something that pushes people away and destroys what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a different take because I think in order to make it make sense, it's almost like I have to go back just a little bit.
Mhm.
So when I met Omar, very philosophical person, always very introspective, like very like just very inquisitive, curious, questioning a lot of things. And again, I was like, you need to catch up with me because I've arrived. I've made it, I'm good. And so I was very much living in the matrix. I was working a job. I was told I was supposed to be successful. I was trying to be successful. I was told I needed to be educated. I got educated. And what happened is, and this just happened just a few years ago, because when Omar started A Soul's Quest, or this platform, I had not bought into it. For me, I was just like, there. I'll support you. I'm a good wife. I'm going to be there for you. If you need me to be a co-host, I'll do it. I mean, I'm going to do whatever you need me to do to help you because this is what you need to get to where I'm at. I need you to catch up with me. We're going to be good. So totally egotistical, but also very detached from who I am, right? Because I was allowing society to label me as this individual that has to be successful. You're in a man's world. I'm doing air quotes. In a man's world, you got to catch up. You got to be smart. You got to be with it. You got to be, all these different things. And so when I was working in higher education for 15 years, I got my degree and doors just continually kept closing on me. I was very focused on what it is that I wanted to do. And in fact, I was hyper focused on that. Nothing else was going to break me away from becoming a professor. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach. I wanted to be in that arena. That's just what I wanted to do. And I did everything that I could to get there. And so much so that I was coming home crying because doors were closing. And I sat down with Omar one day and he, trying to be a good husband and there me, he was like, Jessie, have you considered that you could teach in a different modality and you can teach in A Soul's Quest? And I was just like, I'm not getting support from anybody. Like, even you're going to give me a hard time. Like, this is what I want to do. How are you telling me I can't teach in this way?
Yeah.
So I was very closed off, and very, very, like, just so rigid in my thought process. Right. But it opened something in me and I didn't realize that it did. But I started to think about it and I was feeling a little bit of pressure because I'm like, he really wants me to do this with him. He values the fact that I bring a different element to this platform, but I don't see that in myself because I'm getting my confidence chewed away at, right? As this whole thing goes on. So I ended up jumping ship and going to another organization, hugely toxic. I mean, it was terrible. And what I got from that is that doors were closing at me at the college when I was there. And I didn't face those things. I didn't face those obstacles, those challenges. I sort of just swept them under the rug. And what I did was, in order to get away from that and not face what was happening, I jumped ship and went into another situation that was super toxic. So it was like the universe was talking to me, but I wasn't listening to it. And what happens is, and one of the things that we talk about with A Soul's Quest is you're either going to have to confront what's happening or it's going to be forced on you and you're going to have to confront it anyways. And I kind of had it's forced on me and now I have to deal with this shit, So I'm like, great. So for me, it was just, and I don't even remember what the question was now because I'm telling the story.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's it was just that's basically how I landed here. And it was a very, I'm a more practical person. So there's a framework that we have. It's the PEP framework. So when I'm teaching people, I use that because for me, I, I'm that just means so much to me because I had one perspective
Yeah.
out of the many that exist in my world.
Yeah.
And so being able to open up to that has brought me to this place. But I will tell you that there are a lot of times when I feel, because the question was us working together, that I feel like he's way more advanced than I am in this whole process. Like he comes up with these ideas and he's so amazing. And I'm like, where do you come up with all these ideas?
Yeah.
And I really had to understand that he and I complement each other
Sure.
because when he comes up with an idea, if I can bring it down and understand what he's looking at and break it down, then all of a sudden I become a doer and that's not a problem for me.
And just to do a little, just piggyback on that, right? One of the books that helped me a lot in understanding the different personalities when it comes to as an individual, but also in the things that you do was the E Myth. I don't know if you ever heard of the E Myth.
Yeah.
It's a book that talks about the different personalities that it takes to actually operate a
Oh, yeah.
business. So I'm more of that entrepreneur one that comes up with ideas or anything like that, right? But then she's more of the ones that knows how to actually make it happen, because the entrepreneur, the visual person, it's the one that yes creates it, but is also the one that brings it to the ground. Right.
Yeah.
So it was understanding these things of different aspects of how complementary we need to be with each other, while also putting our individual egos aside, right? Because that's typically what happens is that it's my way that needs to be that way. And as a man, right, I had to learn to be able to understand this is what I'm really good at, and she's excellent at this. I need to be able to do my part, allow her to do her part, and vice versa, so that we can move forward. So that's how you begin to learn momentum. But it goes back to who I am and who you are. It requires you knowing your gifts, right? But also the areas that instead of trying to change that aspect, right? How do I work with the people around me so they complement those aspects that are perhaps uh, you're not going to get as much of a return on your investment if I spend my time trying to be structured every day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's take this a step further. Every day we wake up, there's motivating forces that get us out of the bed, that get us to want to do the job that we do. What is
Mhm.
the one thing, the top thing that you look forward to with working together every
Mm.
day?
That's a great question.
Yep.
Um, I think what I look forward to is when we're here and we're working together because he does have to leave because he contracts and he does groups and other things. Um, but when he's here, it's awesome because it's like I'll come up with an idea or I'll do something or I'll finish something and I can say to him, "Hey, look at this. Check this out." And there's like this really positive energy and vibe and frequency that's happening when we're engaging with each other. Like it just feels good. Like
Yep.
he's here. I can ask him questions. I can say, "What are you thinking about this? I'm doing this. What do you think?" It's just a really cool, positive dynamic, and we're getting things done. Like we're crossing things off the to-do list, which feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's mostly and also when we guest together, I like doing that because typically I will interview the ladies and then he does the gentlemen, right? And so when we're doing this together, it's kind of cool because
Yeah.
people ask questions about what we're doing and they want to
Yep.
know about us. And, it's,
Yeah.
it's a fun dynamic.
To me, I'm selfish in this particular sense, right? What's in it for me, number one, is I love working with individuals and seeing those aha moments, right? Those aha moments I live for that. It's just so beautiful to see that, right? So that's a motivating factor. But another thing that we do, and we talk about it in what we call the desire gateway, right? Because desires are always thought about as negative. Um, One of the desires that gets me up in the morning is that idea of exploration and creativity, right? It's creating something, it's learning something, it's that desire to explore, to say, oh, what is an agent, what's an AI agent, how do I use this, like learning these things. It's also an exciting motivating factor, I know that a lot of us, we once we get our degrees or we go through schooling, we have a negative idea of it, right? Oh, it's boring and it's like lecturing. Being a lifelong learner independently of education systems, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the most rewarding things for me, right? Just learning something new and learning a new point of view, learning a new perspective. I hate debating. I love interacting with people. But just seeing things like that is something that really does motivate me because we are built to explore, to grow, to learn. We just don't water that aspect of us enough.
Yeah. So when you look at the collective of your life in relationship and business mode,
Mhm.
what are you ultimately the proudest of? What stands on top of everything?
Mhm.
Hmm,
Yeah, I
that's a good one.
mean,
I think I'm proud of the fact that aside from the challenges and the obstacles that we face or that we continue to face and the shedding of family and friends that don't sort of align with what we with our value system.
Yeah.
um, I think I'm proudest of the fact that at the end of the day we can embrace each other um, for who we are and um, and love each other unconditionally despite the different perspectives that we might have on these things. So for example, if he's down and not feeling good, that we've come to this place where we can say, hey, I'm not with it today. And we hug it out and we build each other up and I'm going to take it I'll carry you for this moment. And we do that for each other.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a vulnerability that comes with that, especially for men, because men are, the expectation for men is that you have to be strong, you don't show your feelings. We don't have that dynamic.
Yeah.
He's very open. If he needs to cry it out, which he barely ever does, but if he's got to cry it out, there's no judgment. Like, I think that's one of the beautiful things that we started with 24 years ago, like that very open, just acceptance of each other. But we have that, and it's even stronger today.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's my
I mean,
perspective.
to me, the proud thing, and I remember one of my teachers back in the days, he says, a marriage is two horses pulling the carriage in the same direction, right? The moment a horse decides to deviate or go in another way, it's going to be a disaster, right? And what I'm most proud of is that idea. There has been moments in life in which I needed time to explore certain things, and I was allowed to do that. And there were moments in life in which she needed time to explore for her own sake, and when we were able to make that happen. So I think that what I'm most proud of it's that idea of being my own self, but also and her being herself and allowing each other the opportunity to explore more in different areas. She likes to paint. I like to crayon.
Great.
Right. You know, you
That's an
know,
actual
He
verb. I
colors out.
like that.
He
right,
colors
right,
outside of the
yeah, yeah.
lines.
She loves Jodi Picoult and stuff like that, and it's like I don't like romance novels.
It's not romance. Stop.
Tomato, tomato. It's like and it's okay to have those separate identities, but overall is those separate identities. It's what makes the collective of the two of us working together much better.
Yeah.
I think dudes would be much better served if we did read romance novels. I I tend to read more female literature because I'm
Oh,
like, I want to
really?
know what's going on. I want
Oh,
to
that's
open that.
true.
Really?
That's true. It's research. Research.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is it that you want? What is it that's going to make me a better, like, be more cognizant? Because I think we get into our worlds and I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just the
Can I
psyche.
just say one thing? Because since we're talking about books, this totally aligns with what we're talking about. So you asked us about our relationship, right? The very first book that me and Omar read as a unit was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I encourage people in relationships to read this book, because if you want to understand why in the hell this man is going into his cave and doesn't want anything to do with me,
Yeah.
You will understand it when you read this book, and
It's
vice versa. The waves for women,
yeah,
Yep.
incredible.
it's like that meme. There's a couple laying in bed, and the wife is all upset, and she's like, I think he's thinking about other women and all that. He's
Yep.
like, man,
When did the
why
Yankees play again?
why did they
Yep.
take out Cole in the first inning? Why did he do that?
Yep.
So it's
So
like
true.
so understanding each other's point of
Yep.
views, like watching like the girl in the train and things of that
Yeah.
nature. And yeah,
Anyway.
those
Yeah.
things are
No,
Sorry.
it's good. So I want to make sure that this doesn't click off. We got 60 seconds.
okay.
One more question, and then tell me where we can go for the podcast. If anybody
Sure.
wants to hire you, ask
Yeah.
questions. Dream guest. If you could get the one person on the planet on your show, who would it be? Put it
Oh,
out in the universe.
yeah. Honestly, I think I'd like to have Brene Brown on my
Okay.
show.
Huh. Right now, at one point, I wanted to be in Jordan Peterson's podcast and really get to know Jordan Peterson. But I think that right now, I think Rogan is pretty interesting to me.
Absolutely. Hopefully this doesn't click off. Where do we go if people want more?
ASQempowerment.com.
Okay. This was so great. Thank you so much. I love your
Thank
energy. I
you.
love what you're doing.